You did everything exactly right. You checked every single box, you followed all the rules they gave you, yet you still feel like you're falling behind everyone else. It's a specific, exhausting frustration that just drains your soul daily. Let's dive into this explainer and dismantle the exact mechanics of why your effort isn't paying off. We're going to decode the psychology behind your burnout so you can finally stop spinning your wheels.
The harder you run, the further the finish line moves. You put in the hours every single day. You constantly sacrifice your weekends and your precious sleep, but the results simply don't match your immense effort. You're beginning to realize a really uncomfortable fact. The game was rigged before you were even born. You're playing by rules that literally no longer exist, written for an economy that vanished decades ago. So why exactly are you falling behind?
Well, the story you are handed is a carefully constructed childhood lie. They promised that pure grit would buy you a house. They insisted that hard work always leads to immense respect. But the dark truth, and this is something the ultra-wealthy understand intimately, is that meritocracy is just a convenient myth. It's a fabricated illusion designed to keep you running forever while heavily protecting the people already at the top. That house you were promised was bought by someone leveraging connections, not overtime.
You were lied to before you could even speak. A teacher or a parent whispered a beautifully false promise. They basically guaranteed that your effort would eventually be heavily rewarded, but they never stopped to ask the crucial questions. Who actually defines what is considered hard work, and who decides when you finally get to stop struggling? You believed it all because you were just an innocent kid. The truth is, blind effort without leverage is just a recipe for a midlife crisis.
The harsh reality is hiding in the people all around you. Your uncle worked 2 demanding jobs his whole life, yet he remained trapped in poverty. Your school teacher tirelessly graded papers late into the night, but she couldn't afford decent rent. Your mother worked harder than anyone you'll ever know, yet she remained completely and utterly stuck. These specific stories completely shatter the myth of guaranteed success. Hard work is clearly not the universal currency we were told it was.
You see, the story of meritocracy is the easy part to repeat. It perfectly protects massive systems that directly benefit from your blind exhaustion. If you constantly blame yourself, you'll never actually question the machine. You'll just keep pushing yourself closer and closer to burnout, internalizing your lack of progress as a personal failure, instead of recognizing it as a structural design flaw. Your exhaustion is quite literally their profit margin. If they keep you tired, they keep you compliant and deeply productive.
It really comes down to one fundamental law. Effort decides how far you are able to crawl, but circumstance decides how far you are allowed to walk. You absolutely must reframe your perspective today. Stop looking at your life through a rigid lens of personal deficiency and start looking closely at the cold architecture of the system itself. You aren't broken. You're just operating a beautifully complex machine with a completely outdated manual.
Let's look at core principle 1, the illusion of the starting line.
Society teaches us a very specific, incredibly damaging lie. We're told everyone begins the race at the exact same zero. In reality, you're fighting a heavy systemic gravity that others never have to feel. They cruise effortlessly toward their grand goals because they started the race miles ahead of you. You're running an uphill marathon while they just coast downhill. They don't have better running shoes, they simply started at the finish line.
Just look at the massive disparity in probability. Research proves your origin heavily influences your final financial destination. Kids born into extreme wealth are statistically anchored there, while those born without advantages face a steep, almost impossible climb. Once you realize the race isn't fair, you can finally stop blaming your own pace for the distance you haven't covered and just let go of the heavy guilt. The starting gun fired decades before you even arrived at the track.
Moving on to core principle 2, the visibility trap of modern labor.
The world doesn't reward who actually produces the most. It strictly rewards who is seen, too. Your hard work completely disappears into a dark, silent void if no one with power is watching your struggle, too. If you don't have the right audience, your massive effort is just an invisible sacrifice. The world doesn't reward quiet suffering, it rewards highly visible leverage. You could be the engine of the entire company, but they only ever pay the driver.
You can exhaust your soul in complete and utter silence, but you gain absolutely nothing but a heavy, tired heart. 2 people can sacrifice the exact same amount of energy, yet walk away with wildly different results in life. The key difference isn't the sweat equity they invested, but whether the observer standing above them actually has the power, capital, and desire to reach down and pull them up. Visibility is the only currency that converts your raw effort into actual equity.
This brings us to core principle 3,
The architecture of strategic access.
Relationships and timing create true wealth. They matter infinitely more than any amount of pure hours spent isolated at your desk. Success is a highly volatile mix of timing, access, and relationships. Without access to the right rooms and the right people, your endless hours of hard labor will never actually translate into the freedom you deeply desire. You have got to stop grinding in the dark. It's mathematically impossible to save your way to true wealth using only unoptimized, isolated labor. You really need to identify which single connection changes everything for you. Which relationship makes your current effort 10 times more effective? As the data suggests, nurturing the right relationships is often the largest piece of the puzzle and your only real way out of the trap. It's time to stop adding blind hours to your week and start building strategic, powerful bridges instead. One solid handshake with the right decision maker will outpace 10 years of clocking in early.
Finally, we arrive at core principle 4, the necessity of radical self-compassion. You must stop punishing yourself immediately. Stop taking the blame for a broken, rigged system that was purposefully designed to extract your energy. You were given a completely false map as an innocent child. Despite what those cheerful school posters promised you, effort was never meant to be enough on its own. Sheer willpower cannot instantly dismantle walls that took generations of wealth and power to carefully build. You have to forgive yourself for not scaling a mountain that was designed to be completely unclimbable.
Be far kinder to yourself on the long, difficult nights. Forgive yourself when you feel like absolutely nothing is moving forward. You are never lazy, and you are definitely not failing. You are only given half of the success story and told to just make it work against all odds. Now that you finally possess the rest of the dark truth, you can accept that this heavy burden is no longer just on your shoulders. The guilt you feel belongs to the system, not to you.
So, it's time to take some very clear, decisive action. Go out and find the people who actually have power. Build the strategic relationships that turn your invisible work into tangible value. Stop blaming yourself when trying simply isn't enough. You must find the right stage for your specific efforts if you ever want to finally be seen, recognized, and heavily rewarded. Your labor is incredibly precious, so stop giving it away to rooms that keep the lights off.
You were never meant to carry the weight of a broken world on your shoulders alone, too. So ask yourself, what is the one strategic connection you can make tomorrow to finally step out of the dark and make your endless effort visible?